the shackles of parenting, and sometimes parenting may become a challenge when it comes to this era or this age, but we try to navigate, or we try to dissect through different means and ways to make sure that every step that we make in parenting is something that is applicable, is something that is helpful in living or in the generations that we are bringing in, because a society, as we normally say, is so much dependent on its generation. So tonight we have our very own guest who will help us understand the shackles or even the challenges that we find in parenting. So welcome to Mugi TV, the full spectrum. So Sasam, welcome to Mugi TV.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Karibu sana. Thank you very much for
Karibu. Yeah. How was your day?
My day was good.
Yeah.
And fruitful.
Yeah. That's great, and that is what we desire, so that you can even be fruitful for this society also. So welcome to this show.
Thank you.
And we do this to make sure that our generation, or the people, the young people that we have, are growing in the light that our society may need. So someone may want to know who Sam is.
Okay, so thank you very much once again for this invite.
Yeah.
It is a privilege.
Yeah.
And I believe that we are going to enjoy the show and learn a lot from this discussion.
Yeah.
So Samson Kioko is a training consultant.
Yeah.
He's also a father. And he's also a husband.
Yeah.
And he's a father to many.
Yeah.
Because there are people I shepherd, and I thank God for that.
Yeah.
So in brief, that is Samson Kioko.
Now, someone may also want to know what a training consultant means.
When you talk about training,
or what is the role of a training consultant?
Okay, a training consultant encompasses many things.
Yeah.
One, you have the responsibility as a trainer to identify training needs.
Yeah.
Then number two, develop training programs that fit those needs. And number three, deliver those programs. And number four, doing a follow-up. Getting to know that what you trained has been implemented, and there is change that is being seen. There is behavior that is being cultivated and such. So it is something that that begins from understanding the need, and it goes all the way to analyzing the impact after some time.
And the end product
of
the same. Okay, and I've had
so they say that there's no manual for parenting.
I don't believe there is such a thing, although guidelines are there. But at the end of the day, you cannot talk of a standard way of parenting, because this will vary from one parent to the other. It will vary from one family to the other. It will again vary from one environment to the other. So the manual may not be there, but standards may be set. For families, or even maybe for communities.
Okay, and I know as you're coming to this place, I know you've met different people, and different in different levels of growing, young, old, middle-aged, and sometimes you do a survey or you do a research from observation. Through the people you interacted with today, or you've met even before talking to one another, I think that is a behavior, there's something you've learned from them, and or even you've seen some undertakings that you feel you don't wish them happen. So what are the dynamics that you find today when you're interacting, or even you are meeting different people, when it comes, you see, you place an example of like this youth is not brought up well, or there is something not working very well within them. So what did you see within the people you met today, before we dive into the real story?
I believe that we are product of good parenting or bad parenting, because there is what parents instill in every child. And even as a child grows, what was instilled in them will manifest with time. Your character as a child is basically shaped by your parent. Your behaviors as a person were shaped by your parents. The environment where your parents brought you up again have shaped you in one way or the other. So the people you meet on a day-to-day basis are as a result of what is that thing that was taught them. What is that behavior that was advocated for by their parents? What is that environment that they grew from? And at the end of the day, you become what is in you. You know, there's something I read today that that is so vital, and it is good maybe to mention, that what has great impact in a person is not what is on them, but it is what is in them. So what is in you has greater impact than what is on you. And you know what is in you is basically what was instilled in you. It is that discipline that was instilled in you. It is those words that were spoken to you by your parents when you were growing up.
Okay.
So on that note, that is why parents are usually told that whatever you speak to your children will manifest. So speak positivity to your children.
It is critical because words carry life.
Yes.
You may not know the implications of what you say, not until one day you see what you said. So it is important for you to be so careful about what do I say, and why do I say it, and how does it affect the person receiving those particular given words. So it is important for us to have control over our tongues. At times we may lose control and speak negative stuff about our children, but at the end of the day, not unless you correct on that, that will happen one day to them.
Okay, now I think we need to start from a point whereby we need to understand what parenting is, because we understand there should be shallow meaning for parenting, which or layman's language, or in layman's language, and there is also the very important or even linguistic meaning for parenting, and we have to understand from that level so that we can know, because we have different patterns and styles of parenting. So our guest, the training consultant, what does parenting mean in layman's language and in the linguistic point of view?
Okay, I'll give you a simple definition, or maybe simple understanding of what parenting is. Because there are different views and there are different definitions by different people concerning this subject of parenting. But according to me, I would say that parenting is the responsibility bestowed on a parent by God over children. Because children are a gift from God. And if God gives you with children, then now you become a steward. And a steward has a responsibility of ensuring that he does what is right to what has been given to them. Because at the end of the day, you will account for what you did to that which was given to you. So that responsibility that is bestowed on parents, I think that is what I'll call parenting. Other people will say it will relate to the different things that you do to ensure that your child grows in the way that pleases you, or maybe the way that pleases the community. So definitions are there, but at the end of the day, it is what a parent will do to ensure that a child becomes what God purposed them to become.
And what is the difference between a steward and a custodian? Because children are given by God for us to take responsibility of them. So, what is the difference between steward or stewardship and custodian, whatever?
I think there is a thin line between the two, the two terms, because a custodian is a person who has been entrusted with something. A steward still is the biblical, from a biblical perspective, it is someone who has been given or assigned something to do on behalf of someone else.
Maybe a steward on someone's vineyard.
Yes.
Okay.
So even me personally, when I do something wrong at home, my mom will shout at me, she'll tell me things, and then she'll be like, God will ask me one day, and I'll give an account to your behavior. If you don't change, God will ask me. So I have to tell you, no, tukifika hiyo siku, I'm clean.
That is now the responsibility I'm talking about. Because she knows what is my role in raising this child, what is my role as a mother, and what is my role as a father. So if I fail to undertake that role, then at the end of the day, when the day comes, what answers will I give?
Okay, and how strict should a parent be, or how should strictness be too far or too low?
I think parents don't become strict for no apparent reason. I think they become strict because there are things they've monitored, maybe in the environment, and they feel that if I don't become strict, such will affect my kids. At times, you may find that kids may not understand, not unless when you become firm or when you become strict. So depending on the choice that a parent makes, they can say, I'll be strict on these matters, or my strictness will go to this level to avoid a scenario where now you will create fear rather than creating friendship with your children.
So is permissive parenting okay? Because I feel like Gen Zs are very different from millennials and baby boomers and things like that. Because now with the Gen Zs, if you push them too far, you hear that someone unalived themselves?
I think I would say times have changed.
Yeah.
People have changed and events have changed.
Yeah.
The way we parented yesterday is different from the way we are supposed to parent today.
Yeah.
And again, it will be different from the way we are supposed to parent tomorrow.
Yeah.
If you are permissive as a parent, or if you are using that style as a parent, it is again also for you to ask yourself, what am I instilling in this child?
Yeah.
Or maybe what do I want this child to become? Because a parent who is permissive will let the child decide on some matters. A parent who is permissive will let the child make choices that may be right or may be wrong.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, every decision that you allow your child to make will affect them in one way or the other. And in most cases, because these kids are not well informed, they are not in a position to make the right decisions. There's a possibility they'll make the wrong decisions. And at the end of the day, the impact of those wrong decisions will affect you as a parent, even as they affect that child. So it is important for a child first to analyze what is the level of understanding of this child that I want them to make their decisions. Or maybe what is the exposure that this child has that can allow them now to decide for themselves. At times, if you look at different children, their mental abilities, their capabilities vary. There are some that mature at a very young age, and the others will take time before they mature. So, for example, if you believe that your child is mature, being permissive is not wrong. But if they are not that mature, then you cannot just give them the floor to make decisions for themselves, because it will affect them.
So, as they say, spare the rod, spoil the child. These days, they usually say that you should just punish them, but not cane them. What do you think about that?
We cannot deviate from the scripture, because that is the scripture. We cannot add, we cannot subtract. It says you spare and you spoil. So we have a choice as parents. Either we spare and spoil, or we use the cane and correct.
Okay.
But you know, because of modernization and because of the influence of Western culture, you find that now parents are now copying what other cultures practice, and they've forgotten about the basic principle of the Bible, which is now ensuring that you have the responsibility as a parent to instill the right discipline on them.
That's good. And on the narrative of sparing and spoiling, we want to understand, actually you mentioned the issue of, if you see your child mature, you can be permissive. Now there is someone who will not understand. They are not mature. They understand very well what I do, I'm not qualified to do, or even it does not please anyone within my environment. So they still do that. They forced to do the same. So I think it will be a bit vital to mention the disadvantages of being permissive now that you've noted that your young ones are not up to the level of being mature enough.
The maturity that I'm talking about is a level of discipline that you can see in a child, irrespective of their age. You can be 15, but very responsible. You can be 30, but very irresponsible.
Careless.
You see? So, if I observe that responsibility in a child, I can give them the opportunity now to decide on some matters, not all matters, to decide on some matters.
But you have to gauge on the matters that you delegate to your young ones.
That's why I'm saying on some matters, not every other matter, on some matters, even as I groom or maybe shape this person to be in a level where they can now make stronger and bigger decisions. Now, there are advantages to that, because when you become permissive, to some extent, you're giving this child an opportunity to grow. You are giving this child an opportunity to decide for themselves. You are giving this child that opportunity to explore some things. But on the other hand, if they are not mature enough and you become permissive, it is like you are leading them in the wrong way. It is like allowing them to decide what is wrong even as you watch. So, a permissive parent should be careful on how to exercise that style, and especially depending on the kind of people you're raising. Now, you spoke about the generation that we are dealing with today. This generation is learned. This generation is exposed. But Their exposure does not mean that they can make the right decisions.
Yeah.
Their exposure does not mean that they know everything.
Yeah.
The exposure that they have is as a result of what their friends tell them,
Yeah, true.
maybe what they research on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
which may be limited to some extent. You know, life issues cannot be dictated by one person or one group.
Yeah.
Life issues are common among each and every one of us. So, if you let them decide, be sure
Yeah.
of what they are deciding.
Yeah.
Monitor their decisions. If it is something that you can correct before it brings some negative effects in the future.
And now, suppose you a parent and you become a bit permissive to your children. Do you need to have a daily report book for what they've been doing to make sure that you mentor them, or even to make sure that you mark the book and see if there is any positive stride that is made?
Yes and no. The book may create some fear,
Yeah.
because they'll be waiting for the father to come
Yeah.
and review the book.
Yeah.
So they will do things having in mind that when my dad comes,
Yeah.
maybe he'll find me on the wrong.
Yeah.
And
Or
even
make
on that note, it
Yeah.
may bring competition between siblings.
yes. So that may not be the right way to do.
Yeah.
But I believe as a parent, we know our kids so well.
Yeah. True.
If you are raising two kids or even three, you can tell the difference between one
and the other. Yeah.
You can tell who did and did not do anything. You can tell who has a focus, who doesn't have a focus. So that observation and that continuous monitoring will bring you to a level where you will tell everything, even before they tell you. That is why if I walk into my house right now, I can tell. If
Would be
I find
faster to
something,
pick you, yeah,
yes,
yeah.
I'll definitely tell, because I know in the house there's one
Yeah.
who is aggressive, there's another who is not.
Yeah.
So if I find something that came as a result of aggressiveness, in my mind it is clear,
Yeah.
it is so and so. So that observation and understanding about your kids is critical.
And sometimes, sometimes when we are young, or when children are in a lower age, you find that they love one another. It gets to a point now that you note, my child is stronger in this one side and the other is lower in the other side. And it gets to a point whereby a parent should not show partiality. You need to show love to all of them. But one will maybe do things intentionally to make sure that, because it's like you feel, you as a parent, you are so weighty in love towards one child, then to me you are very low. So they may do something intentional to make sure that they distract what good the other child is doing.
Yeah.
And by so doing, you may find that, of which I don't think it should be allowed. Sometimes you're not supposed to show partiality, but sometimes you find that you're loving one child more than the other, of which the love you're giving to this one is not that you don't love the others, but there's something someone does because of being focused, being determined, and not even that you're strong or a child is strong, but you are determined, you're focused, you want to make sure that you achieve something. The other knows very well that this one, whatever this is doing, is very good, but I don't want to do. So do you have to show love to one who looks a bit respectful? Actually, it's about being obedient and respectful. Now suppose you have 3 children and one looks a bit rebellious or betrayal in one way, and the other one, no matter the regulations and the rules that you lay unto them all, at the class of them being 3, but one of them respects you to the top. What are you supposed to do in such a situation?
Our role model as parents
Yeah.
is God.
Yeah.
God does not show impartiality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because that is our role model,
Yeah.
even as parents, we should not show partiality
Yeah.
to our kids.
Yeah.
We appreciate the fact that our kids are not the same. Some are strong,
Yeah.
some are weak.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, their differences
Yeah.
should not be a cause for you to say, I prefer one
Yeah.
and I don't
Yeah.
prefer the
To
other.
the other. Yeah.
Your responsibility as a parent is to know, how do I support the weak
Yeah.
one? How do I ensure that that weak point is catered for?
Yeah.
How do I ensure that I improve this child on a day-to-day basis? Take an example. Mentally, we are not the same.
Yeah, true.
And you can never find a family where everyone is the same mentally. You'll find some are weak, some are very strong.
Yeah.
If I realize that my child mentally is having challenges,
Yeah.
have a responsibility as a parent to ensure that I expose this child
Yeah.
to any activity that will make them develop
Yeah.
mentally. If I find maybe one child is
Yeah.
aggressive, it is my responsibility to create an environment
Yeah,
where this
which- yeah.
aggressiveness can be nurtured. Because every aggressiveness
Yeah.
has a fruit at the end of the day. It is a character, no, let me say it is a personality that you can see in someone. And if I identify that in one, my responsibility is not to suppress it,
Yeah.
but to expose this child into things that will take control, or maybe into environments that will call for them to utilize this aggressiveness or this potential
Yeah.
to their maximum level.
Okay.
So let me ask, what do you think about neglectful parenting? Because these days you find that the economy is so hard and parents are toiling so hard to fend for their families. So you find that sometimes a parent may go back home at 11, the kids are asleep and things like that. When they wake up, the parent has already left, but they have everything. They have a roof over their head, they are eating and things like that. What can you say about that? Is that neglectful? Because at the same time, this parent is working this hard for these children. Yeah.
I think what is vital for parents to know is that it is your responsibility to raise your kids.
Yeah.
You may provide for what the kids require, but on top of the provision,
Yeah.
they need you. On top of the provision,
Yeah.
they need to learn from you. They need your care. They need your protection. They need that relationship. They need to see you like every other time.
Yeah.
So once you neglect your responsibility as a parent,
Yeah.
you've automatically given that responsibility to something else.
Yeah.
Maybe to the television, or maybe to friends.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they will shape
Yeah.
your kids in a way that may not be pleasing at the end of the day. So irrespective of the time
Yeah.
that a parent has, irrespective of the commitments that parents may have, it is critical for them to create time
Yeah.
for their parents. It may not be the entire day.
Yeah.
Few minutes will create a very great impact in the life of a
Yeah.
child.
Okay.
So what can you say about the challenges of parenting?
Or before we get to the challenges, I think we have different. I think the different patterns or styles of parenting are brought in by the environments that we have, and I think we have the issue or the factor of being an authoritative parent and again being an authoritarian. So, what is the difference, or what does an authoritarian parent mean, or parenting mean?
Okay. Let me explain the two, although there is a thin line between the
it
two.
is.
But let me explain the two. An authoritarian
Yeah.
parent is a parent who sets rules and standards
Yeah.
and guidelines, and nobody should question.
Yeah.
They are so rigid in whatever they say.
Yeah.
They don't give room for opinions. They don't give room for views.
Yeah.
If they say, in my house, reporting time is 6 o'clock,
Yeah.
you cannot question.
Yeah.
It is 6. If you are not there at 6,
Yeah.
then now go back
Yeah.
where you came from. That is a parent who is authoritarian.
Yeah.
Now, authoritative, like,
Yes,
is
authoritative.
authoritative parenting.
Yeah.
This is a parent who will set rules
Yeah.
and standards for the family, but they are flexible.
Yeah.
They can give room
Yeah.
for you to give your opinions.
Yeah.
They can give room for you to give your views. They can listen to whatever you want to say. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they have the final say. So, if you become authoritarian
Yeah.
or authoritative, then I believe there are certain driving forces
Yeah.
that will make you as a parent to become or to choose
Yeah.
either of those styles of parenting.
Yeah. Okay. Then out of the four, I think we have young parents who are still who have got no children until this time, but because of them being young in marriage or in their union, and you find there are others who with very young children, and they are coming up to the issue of parenting. And you find there are some restrictions when it comes to environments that fix them into that point. So sometimes someone may try to one, or sometimes you do a reflection, or you want to copy someone, you want to do something like a competition, whereby you want your children, like actually it happens sometimes you may want your child to, the facial appearance of your child to look like the child of another person or another couple. So you find that competition is still there, or we have it in parenting. And sometimes you, young parent, may wonder, where do I start when it comes to parenting? Because maybe they've been like someone who is out of college or out of school, they may be yearning to be parents, but they still fear. I've been watching this, I've been seeing this, I've been with this kind of behavior from college or university people. Now, what do I do when I become a parent? So which is the right method or pattern for young people to adopt to make sure that their children are, let's say, a bit or are up to standard in the will of the parents and the will of God?
Now, I believe as a parent, you are the role model to your children. And your children will learn from you. Even before you choose what style of parenting that you want to follow, the first lesson that a child will learn is from the parent. So if you want to train them in the right way, be the first person to practice that. If you want them to follow certain rules or you want them to follow certain patterns, be the first to do that. Because if they see you do, they'll have no problem doing it. But if they don't see you do it, then they will question you when you tell them to do it. So it is important for any parent to first understand, one, you cannot raise your family like another family.
It's true.
Because we are different. Maybe financially, we are different. Our capabilities are different. So if you to raise your family, then let your family be your example, not any other family. Because you may copy another family and yet you don't have the support mechanism to sustain maybe a lifestyle or maybe a certain way of living. So any parent should first initiate from the starting point how they want to raise their family and how they want to raise their children. But most of the times, new parents will reflect on how they were raised. So their base will be, how did my mother raise me? So in that way, they want to raise their kids. It may work. It may work. But at some point, it may bring challenges because environments are changing like every other time.
Okay, and that's good. So you said there is no specific parenting style or pattern that one should adopt.
Out of the four, they say authoritative could be appropriate. Why so? You set rules, you set standards and guidelines, but be flexible.
There is a room for change.
If you are flexible, then now you can have a sitting, you can discuss with your kids. As I said, the generation that you are raising today are not people to command. They are not people to tell them it is either my way or the highway. They are not such. They are people who need to be listened to. They are people who need to be given room to speak their mind. And once you give them room to speak their minds, of course you will correct on what is wrong. And again, you will guide on what you feel is not right for them. So authoritative could be the best style.
Okay,
so on that note, we're going to go on a short commercial break. Our viewers, please stay tuned.
Inyuletha duka ungigura paprika dress ndugathenike ringi ni amu Track Sound Audio Limited mehaha ni undu waku. Aya ni endia nguthi a speakers, mixers, equalizers, microphones, guitars, keyboards, haze machines, linearies, speakers, park and rides, amplifiers, drum sets na indo ingi nyingi. Me mucini munene wa Nairobi, Luthuri Avenue, kana mwena wa Mombasa barabara-ini ya Haile Selassie. Ni undu wa horo makiria mahurire thimu kugerera 0722 755 207 kana 0799 3131. Track Sound Audio Limited. We make sound better.
Nĩ ũthumbũkĩte kũharĩria igongona rĩaku nĩguo rĩkinyanĩre. Ndũkamake rĩngĩ. JN Events marĩ haha nĩ ũndũ waku. Tũkũheaga macini ta drive racks, wireless microphones, stage fog machines, stage lights, from monitors, Rhinaries na roadshow track. Tukoragwo Naivasha, Karai Kiroche Road. Tusherere kana uhure thimu namba 0720 394 177. JN Events. We speak your events. Ungienda kuonjorithia na ithuĩ kwanĩrĩrithia biacara yaku kana kĩmenyithia gĩa gĩkuo, tũcerere wabici-inĩ citũ Nairobi, View Park Towers, ngorofa ya 5 Wing C, kana ũhure thimũ namba 0720 394 177, kana ũtũme email kũrĩ info@mugitv.co.ke. Mugi TV, mugambo wa kwĩhokeka.
Muthi wa Jumatatu aingĩ maũtambũrĩte ta mwanjĩrĩrio wa kiumia, no gũkũ kwa Mugi TV nĩ kĩanjĩrĩria kĩomenyo na ndititimũrano thaa-inĩ cioteti na ũtongoria. Maya mothe nĩ thĩinĩ wa tabarĩra ya Mbuthi ya Ũteti. Nĩ Jumatatu thaa 1:30 o nginyagia thaa 3 hwaĩ-inĩ, ũgĩterevwo nĩ Wainaina Shake akĩinainia thingo ciothe cia ũteti na ũtongoria. Wĩra waku no gũikia mbuthi ndereti-inĩ. Nĩ o Jumatatu thaa 1:30 o nginyagia thaa 3 hwaĩ-inĩ. Mugi TV, mugambo wa kwĩhokeka.
Welcome back, our viewer. Kindly follow us on Facebook, that is Mugi TV Kenya, and YouTube, Mugi TV Kenya. And this show is sponsored by JN Events. So if you're having any kind of event, kindly contact us and we shall attend to your event. So karibu tena.
Thank you.
So as we continue, what are the impacts of technology in parenting?
Well, before we go, remember you are watching the full spectrum, the shackles of parenting.
Technology. You know, we are living in a technological world.
Yeah.
Everything is getting replaced by technology, including parenting.
Yeah.
And that is why today, majority of our children are greatly influenced by technology, not their parents, because they are spending much time on gadgets. They are spending much time maybe on television and less time with their parents.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, they are learning from different quarters. They are learning things that may be of benefit and things that may not be of benefit. So you will find that now technology is replacing parents.
Yeah.
And because technology is changing very, very fast, things are changing very fast.
Yeah.
Information is changing like every other day. So this child will be than through
learning
the
from
parents.
the parent.
Yeah, so technology is good and technology requires control. It is not every other time that your child should be on a gadget. There are times when they need to spend on the gadget and other times when they need to spend with their parents.
Yeah.
So the parent has the responsibility of keeping watch of what they do on these technologies and again the time they spend on this technology. If you don't have that control, they can even spend the entire night maybe on Facebook, maybe on WhatsApp and such. And at the end of the day, if they don't sleep, then it means the following day they'll sleep and they'll be less productive. So a balance is critical when it comes to technology.
Okay, so do you have any physical or inbuilt or in-body effects of using technology excessively or in extreme levels?
Technology is through gadgets, it's through machines. And because a mobile phone is a machine, a small machine, a tablet is a small machine and such. And they are using, their communication or their coordination is through waves and such. And there are effects of such in our bodies. And especially if we use them for a very long time. If we don't keep a balance between the time you spend on them on a day-to-day basis, with time, they may affect you in one way or the other. Take an example, the headphones. You know, you may use them like every other day, enjoying yourself, but the effect of that will come years to come. You will develop some complications, and you will not tell whether it is the usage of that gadget. So it is important for our kids to be educated on how does such affect them.
So can we have control from the government and from parents too when it comes to technology use?
I believe the first control should come from the parent. Remember, the government to some extent is making money out of what is coming to the country. So the parent, number one, has a responsibility of defining which is the right gadget for my child. Then number two, what is the correct usage of that gadget? Then number three, what is the right time for you to use that gadget? If you're so specific on such, then I believe your child will comply.
So I believe that when a child uses the gadgets, they become dull. Even at school, they are not able to do well in school. So are there measures that parents can put, like baby proofing, especially in things like the time they should watch and the things that they are watching, like you're able to watch first before your children watch?
I think what is important, because in every program, I would say, there's always a parental control thing, where you can be so specific that this is good for my child, this is not good for my child. I'll put control over this, and I'll allow the child to watch this. For example, today we have cartoons, because kids are for cartoons. But now, the cartoons of today are not the cartoons of yesterday. There is some funny information about that is coming through the cartoons. So if a parent does not monitor and control that, it will influence on their child in one way or the other. Remember, child development comes from different ways. It is not only in school, even at home. You are developing that child mentally by what you are exposing them to. So whatever activity that engages the child's mind will shape that mind in one way or the other. So it is a collective responsibility between what is taught in schools and what you're supposed to teach at home.
What are the emotional and psychological? Like, I'm a big fan of mental health. So how would you know if your child is actually depressed? And how do you go about that? Because children are also human beings, and sometimes they might find themselves in situations where they cannot control and they become depressed. So you as a parent, what steps are you supposed to take?
For you to get into depression, it is not a one-day thing. It is a continuous thing. It starts from a small thing, it grows until you get to that level. Close relationship with your kids is important, because if you're too close to them, you will know if there's something wrong. If you're not close, you will not know. Then open communication is important with your kids. Let them speak out. Let them tell you what are the issues that they are facing. If they can open up to you, you'll be able to address some of these things. But if they don't have that forum where they can talk to you, if you cannot listen as a parent, what will they do? They'll keep them to themselves. And once you keep something that is bothering you to yourself, it grows like a tree. And at some point, it will begin to bear fruit. And one of the fruit is depression. So once you get into depression, correcting that is more expensive other than, in relation to controlling it. So we have the power to control. We don't need to wait until when it gets to the extreme.
And I think before we get to depression, we start from the smaller or the levels that we may think are not so negative to our style of bringing up our children. And we start maybe from stress, the level of stress, then you shift to depression. And I have a concern whereby a child may look so demanding, and maybe whatever they are demanding or they are requesting for from the parents, it's like there's something that parents cannot afford. So because they see parents are not providing what they're requesting for, they have to demand. And because it is not coming into fruition, they have to keep pushing. Does that push into stress, then depression?
What are you demanding? I think that should be the starting point.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, is it of necessity?
Mm-hmm.
If it is not, then you don't need to demand.
Yeah.
Then number two, a child should not demand.
Yeah.
A parent knows what is good for a child.
Yeah.
Yes, there are things that the children will feel that I need this,
Yeah.
but in the eyes of the parent, you don't need it.
Yeah.
Whatever is not of benefit, I will not advocate for the parents to go for it. If something will not benefit a child, then you don't need to invest on that.
Yeah.
Be so careful on what they are demanding. Then again, ask yourself, what is the motive? Why are they demanding? Maybe iPhone 1.
Yeah.
What is
iPhone
the current?
16,
iPhone 16,
13.
yes. So you are 10 years and you are demanding
Yeah.
iPhone 16. What is it for? It is a good thing, but
Yeah.
it is not for you.
Yeah.
So it is important for a parent to be open to the child and
Yeah.
explain to them that what you're asking for is good, but not for now. Or what you're asking for is good, but I cannot afford. Because I don't think a parent will sell a car to buy iPhone
Yeah.
16 for the child.
Yeah.
It does not make sense.
Yeah, sure.
So it is that communication, that engagement with your child
Yeah.
that will bring you to that level where you can understand each other and now decide on the way, the best way forward.
And I think children are learning from others, and there is this issue of parents being too busy up to a point of them taking their young children to boarding schools. What age should you take your child to boarding school? Because sometimes I think when it comes to the issues of boarding schools, that is where you find children of high-end children or children who are parents that at least are well up financially, and maybe you are a bit lower. So there are some things, and we start small with the kind of shopping that some children will come to school with. So I have to envy, I have to feel like I need to copy from this. So what is the best or suitable age for a parent to take their children to boarding schools?
I believe the determining factor is not the age,
Yeah.
but the responsibility that the child has developed. If they are responsible enough to take care of themselves in school, then they are ready for that. But again, I'm not saying at 2 you take them to boarding, or maybe at 10 you take them to boarding. It is you have the responsibility of first grooming and raising this child to a level where you are so sure when they are in school you are okay. Unlike a situation where you take them to school at that tender age and you don't sleep because you are thinking about, did they eat, did they wash their clothes, I don't know what and such. So I believe it is first growing them and making them ready for school. If that is done, then they are able now to cope. But again, remember, there are other forces that will lead parents to take their kids to school. Other than the maturity bit, there are other forces. Maybe the environment is not that favorable for them to be day scholars. That, again, will necessitate a parent to take their kids to school.
So how are you able to monitor your child's behavior when they're in boarding schools? Because you find sometimes when a child goes to boarding school, you raise them right, and then now when they come for the holidays, they start behaving in a type of way that you don't like. Maybe they start cussing or they start using drugs, especially the drug abuse mostly usually starts from schools and boarding schools.
I believe when they are at school, as a parent, you have less control. That is why now we entrust them to the teachers. It is now the teachers to monitor. What do they do so long as they're within the school compound? And that is why schools have rules. And if you can't comply to the rules, then you're not fit for the school. But again, choices, as they say, have consequences. The school may have rules, the parent may have rules, but again, the child may make a choice that I don't want to listen to what you're telling me. This is what is good for me. So if they pursue what is good for them, then maybe as time goes by, it will affect them. Or maybe as time goes by, they'll come to the realization that my decision was not the right decision. And maybe they'll come back and follow the decision that is right for them.
And so I think school is the brooding environment for a generation. And sometimes you may, a teacher may punish a child, not in a corporal or a criminal way, but once the child reports to their parents that the punishment was not worth or even suitable them, the parents will have to get back to the school with the child. Then it will be, it's like the parent will tell the teacher that you're not supposed to cane my child up to this, or you're not supposed to cane my child at any point. And you see, this conversation is happening when in the presence of the pupil or the child. What is the effect of that for the education of the child, for the growth again, and for the discipline within the school and within the home environment?
I think we should start by understanding what is the rule by the government. Is it a rule or a regulation?
The regulation.
What is the regulation by the government on corporate punishment? If the government says then don't, then teachers should not, because that's the government. But again, instilling discipline to children comes in different ways. One of it being caning. Because I remember when we were raising up, the teachers used to cane us so much than our parents. And we used to get to a level where we fear teachers more than our parents. And if I reflect back, that caning was good. Because they were not caning me, but they were caning the mistake that I was committing. They were trying to correct me. They were trying to show me that there is something better other than what you want to.
And then after you are whipped, you have to say thank you.
Yes, it was there.
That is narcissistic.
It is not. It is not.
It is.
Yeah,
Why would you force me to tell you
me,
thank
what
you?
I would suggest, what I would say, and I support that, because if you say thank you, because this teacher has removed something that is not of basic need or of a necessity within your life. So if they remove it, suppose they leave you, suppose you beat another child, and they still stop you, or even you keep on doing the same, and no one will stop you from doing that. This will mean that it is a good activity, it's a good behavior, and a discipline. So you keep on the same route. So utajipata wapi? Ile ulimwengu. Class yake inakujanga tu mahali popote. Yeah, so me, I would think, by giving back to our guest to pick up on the same. Me, I would think caning is good, and then it was good for us to appreciate. Yeah.
But on that point, you've had stories where teachers have caned children until they've died.
That's why I say it is not corporal, not criminal. You have to have regulation. You have to have a limit, because when you're trying to make a child behave well, there is the issue of you doing it orally, or even using the cane to do a disciplinary action to the one who has done something wrong. Yeah.
I believe the starting point to parenting is the parents and homes, not school. When you're taking your child to school, you're not taking them there to be parented by their teachers. Rather, you are taking them there with one objective. They are going to learn, or they are going to be exposed into new environments. So if we fail as parents, even if we take our kids to the best schools or schools that punish, then correction may not come back. But if we are so careful about correcting them when we are with them, even when they go to school, they'll still remember that I was told this is not good and this is good. I was told that these are the best morals and these are not good morals. And that will be part of them. So I think it is a parent who carries more responsibility than the teacher. And I think today's parents have neglected parenting, and they have left that to the teachers. And teachers may not do much when it comes to parenting. A teacher will instill the required discipline in school. A teacher will give knowledge, but now the rest is for the parent.
Okay, so I think parents have had. It is a very sensitive process when it comes to parenting, and so if you need your child to be dependable in the society, I think you need to have, or even you need to have a watch or really listen to what we are doing. And remember, this is the full spectrum, and the topic is the shackles of parenting. And to our next concern is we have the issues, the challenges when it comes to parenting. And I think one of the issues that we may have, or that poses a danger and a risk in parenting, is when we mentioned of a child being so demanding, because they may demand until, and I think you've heard of children who rob their parents. Maybe you've put your small change and table or whichever place, or on top of a table, and then you find maybe it was 150 shillings and the 50 shillings was in coins. You don't find 20 shillings, and when you ask, no one will respond that they took the money, and even if there was any need for them to pick the 20 shillings, they did not request it from the parents. So I think we've got different and many challenges when it comes to parenting, and I think we can address few, so that if one finds, we can have the challenges and solutions for the challenges, even if they are two.
Okay, I think one of the major challenge that parents are facing today is the constant change in the environment. Because any change in the environment has some implications or impact on parenting. And I use maybe a case like technology that we are talking about today. Any new technology that comes into the market will draw the attention of our kids. And maybe as a parent, I'm not in a position to secure that for my child or my son or my daughter. So we'll get into conflict with this child because they are looking for this, but I'm not able to provide. Another bigger challenge that I believe we are facing as parents is how do we deal with peer pressure? Because majority of the demands that our kids are bringing to us is as a result of peer pressure. They want to be like other kids. And maybe as a parent, I'm not in a position to provide that. If you tell them no, they'll ask you why. For example, my daughter once told me, from Monday until Friday you're going to work. How do you say you have no money? How do you say you have no money? Because to her, so long as I've gone to work, I have money. And whatever she requests, then I need to provide for that. So peer pressure is bringing a lot of challenges to parents. Then another challenge that I believe is bringing some of putting parents to some difficulties is parents, we've neglected our responsibilities. And because we've neglected, when a child behaves in a certain way, we now begin to accuse them that you don't listen, or maybe you are not obedient and such. But if you analyze it critically, it is not the child, it is us. So some of these challenges may be as a result of our own creation, other than the creation of the child. But what is more very important, and especially if you are to parent well, is developing a good relationship with your child. A relationship that will take you to a level where you will know when things are wrong, and you will know when things are right. Getting to connect fully with your child. And this connection relates to what you mentioned, the emotional connection. A parent who is emotionally connected to their child will feel them. A parent who is emotionally connected to their child will know when things are not working. But if there is disconnection, there are many things that will happen to your child and you will never know.
Because they don't find the right environment for them to report or even to share their grievances too. Okay,
so
that's
on
great.
That note, what is your parting shot?
What I'll say to parents is that there is grace to raise our kids. These kids came from God, and God knew that we were well able to raise them. He has given us that grace. So it is understanding our role as parents and stepping into the shoes of parents and guiding these kids in the right way. That is why the Bible says that you train a child in the ways of God, And when they grow up, they will not forget. They'll not depart from that. So if we stand as trainers, if we stand as role models, if we stand to correct our kids, then we are shaping them to become the right people in the society. Remember, our kids are kids today. Tomorrow, they'll not be kids, they'll be parents. So what is that thing that you are instilling in them? How will it affect them tomorrow?
Okay, that's good. I think you've mentioned that there are people who call you a parent, though you shepherd them. I like that you mentioned them, and maybe say I to 3 people as we wind up the show.
Oh, thank you once again. I think first I'll pass my regards and love to my family, my wife, and my 2 beautiful daughters, Kezia and Tamar. It is a privilege to be your father. And again, I believe as a family we are going far. Then the second set of family, I have brothers and I have a sister and their families. So I want to thank them for their support. I want to thank them for their prayers. And the third, I have a team that I lead in TOG, the youth of TOG Church. I want to appreciate you for being the best. And I want to appreciate you for the support that you have shown me as your patron. May God bless you and God keep you.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, so this is the Full Spectrum Show. Thank you for staying with us. This show has been
It was coming to you courtesy of